All right, everyone. 4 more states have canceled their primaries and caucuses for the GOP because Trump is the nominee. I mean, there's no serious contest for the nomination. Joe Walsh doesn't matter. Most people don't know who he is. It's like when you look at the Dem field, you got to understand that for most of these candidates, unless a person's cued in and they pay attention to the net for news, and then maybe they use YouTube more, so they know what the Yang Gang is, or they know Tulsi Gabbard, Mommy 2020 is. They probably don't know who any of the lower tier candidates are. They're the also-rans. They know who Bernie Sanders is. They know Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden. They probably know Kamala Harris and Buttigieg, and that's pretty much it. They might have one further person they even understand that name. If you ask them who Inslee was, there were people who, after Inslee dropped out, one person actually commented, I think, on one of my videos or on a Twitter status and said, when is he going to drop out? They didn't even realize it. Because nobody fucking gives a shit. So nobody cares about Joe Walsh. And Bill Weld, Bill Weld is an okay-sized name politically. Like, he was a VP candidate for the LP when it did fairly well the last time around, but he's just a bitter never-Trumper who's trying to embezzle money anyway. So fucking who gives a shit about him? So I think it was, I can't remember the exact states. Arizona and Nevada, I think, were two of them. Nevada being important. There's no serious contest. By the way, this is a key to the White House. The keys to the White House, I can't remember the dude's name, that one political analyst and prognosticator. He's been right in every presidential election since the 70s based on this. I didn't become aware of it before Trump had become nominee, I believe, but it's interesting the criteria he uses. There are 13 keys to the White House. Incumbent advantage, by the way, a very important one. Democrats are at a loss. If you get 7 of those keys in your favor, you win. If you don't get 7 of them or more in your favor, you lose. And this has held true for each election since the 1970s. I think the 70, I can't remember the exact year. Anyway, as of this particular moment, what he said, I think he went on not just Fox, but I think he was on MSNBC saying the same thing. This was months ago. He felt that the Democrats should try to impeach Trump because that would actually take one of the keys away from him, which is White House untarnished by major domestic scandal. I guess the idea is that if there's no further movement on the Russia stuff, it's just speculation and partisan bullshit. It doesn't actually fulfill the removal of that key from Trump. He thinks that's a mistake. I'm not sure I entirely agree with him on that, but as far as there being no major primary challenger for the incumbent, so that the person simply coasts into the position, yeah, Trump's got that key too. Which means I think he has 5 under his belt solidly, another couple that he's probably got in the bag, I mean, including, according to his criteria, I guess, non-impeachment. I'm not sure that rises to the level of a scandal. In fact, I've been counting the domestic scandal one against Trump simply based on the fact that so many people do believe there was dubious shit going on with the Mueller probe, and not understanding reality. I think that the duping of the population was so systemic that actually counts, even if it's not a real scandal. I still think Trump will probably be reelected. I think the Democrats are weak and ineffectual. They're making so many fucking mistakes, and they look fractured. This just shores up the view of the Republicans as solidified. Trump has legendary levels of approval within the GOP. He's got no problem within his own party. There is no schism. It's like when people say, well, there's this never-Trumper movement, there's all this rebellion in the Republican Party. There's a never Biden element, a never Warren element, a never Sanders element, a never side with Pelosi element, a never AOC element, a never everything element within the Democrats. It's every man, woman, and child for themselves, and most of them mentally, they're very childlike. That's the problem. The Democrats can't formulate a strategy. The Democrats are too busy fighting each other. The fact is, when you have a situation where one person is incumbent, no serious challenger, they come out smelling like a rose. They don't have a contest. All they have to do is practice for the general election. The Democrats have to go through a months-long process of slinging mud at each other. The problem is also, they've been holding back. But as the contest gets further and further towards actual voting, there's going to be so much of a tendency for the lower candidates especially to try to attack the front runners, to get their name in the papers, and it's going to take a toll. This is exactly why they finagled the polls. They cherry-picked them very deliberately to keep Tulsi Gabbard out of the last debate. It was deliberate. It was extremely, out of the upcoming debate, I believe. Totally deliberate. There's no possible way that they randomly chose the polls in such a way that you could justify Gabbard being off the stage and Julian Castro, who's riding a point below her, on the stage. There is no possibility that they did that by accident. I do allege that. The DNC very explicitly wanted her out because they were terrified she would do what she did to Kamala Harris to Elizabeth Warren. She's their waiting in the wings second-tier individual. She's the person that they're holding as sort of, a safeguard against the possibility of Biden having to drop out. He's an old dude. He's got health issues. He's not doing so well. He could end up losing. If he starts to crumble, they will immediately back Elizabeth Warren. It was never Kamala Harris that was going to be backed. It's Elizabeth Warren. She's been groomed for this for several years. I mentioned this back before the 2016 election, I think, was even over. I think during the primaries, didn't I point out that it was funny that she wasn't jumping in? She was probably waiting for the next election, and she was carefully cultivating an image as a progressive stand-in, sort of a missing link between the far left and the old left in order to be palatable to both sides. Seems to have worked fairly well. I mean, her strategy did pay off. She's arguably in second place, or at least a very close third. She's viable. Despite the fact that she's got major scandals backed up behind her, they haven't been an issue so far. In such a charged political climate, there are so many people who are never Trump, never Trump. They just want someone who's electable. All it has to happen is Joe Biden kicks off or has an aneurysm or something, and Elizabeth Warren probably gets nominated. By the way, it'd be very funny to see a woman who lied about her ethnicity since the 1970s try to justify wanting to be the first female president. It'd be very, very funny indeed. Imagine Hillary Clinton blustering her way through having to endorse her. Say, you better kiss ring if you want my endorsement. Well, actually, maybe Elizabeth Warren wouldn't want her endorsement. Come to think of it. That might be dead weight on her campaign. That's about all. Peace out.